It's funny how one phone call can change everything. The moment my phone buzzed, I knew it was coming. The name flashed across the screen like a lightning strike in the middle of a dark night. For a second, my heart stopped. I hadn't heard from her in 6 months, not a word, not since the night everything shattered into pieces. The last time we'd spoken, I had blocked her and Eli both. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't stand to be the third wheel in their picture-perfect life while I sat in the corner of my own emotions, unable to move on. And yet, here she was again, calling me. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity, no, hope was stronger than my anger. So I swiped the screen, lifted the phone to my ear, and waited for her to speak. Her voice was soft, tentative, as if she wasn't sure if she had the right to speak to me after all this time. I swallowed, trying to steady my breath. Yeah, it's me. There was a silence on the other end. I could practically hear the hesitation, the weight of everything left unsaid. "I'm sorry," she said, her words rushed. "I didn't mean to, I just needed to talk to you, please." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone. I couldn't help but wonder what had changed. 6 months of silence. 6 months of blocking her out, of blocking out the pain she caused when she chose my brother over me, and now she wanted to talk, now of all times. I exhaled sharply. "Why now, after everything that happened, why are you calling me?" Her voice cracked slightly, and it felt like she was on the verge of tears. I don't know, I just need you to know that I'm sorry for everything, for blocking you, for not telling you the truth. I miss you, and I've been thinking about you every day. I need you to know that, please. I felt the air leave my lungs. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to face her again, not after everything. The betrayal, the lies, the hurt. I wanted to yell at her, tell her to leave me alone, that she had no right to come back into my life after everything she'd done. But instead, I felt a strange ache in my chest, a yearning that I hadn't felt in months. It was familiar and terrifying. I stopped myself. "I can't just forget, okay? You chose Eli, you chose him over me." There was another pause. I could almost feel her pain from the other side of the phone. "I know," she whispered. "I messed up. I didn't know how to choose. I thought I could keep you both, but I—" "You hurt me," I said, my voice quieter now. "You chose him. You knew how I felt, and still—" I couldn't finish the sentence. It felt like my throat was closing up, like the words wouldn't come out. The sound of sighing softly on the other end was the only thing I could hear for a few moments. I imagined her, sitting there, perhaps holding the phone as tightly as I was, both of us stuck in the same painful space. "I'm sorry, I should said something sooner. I should told you how I felt, but I was scared," she said. "I was scared of ruining everything we had. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to make it right." It was the same excuse I had heard from her before. Fear. She was always afraid of something, afraid of losing me, afraid of losing us. But now, 6 months after everything had fallen apart, I couldn't decide if her words were sincere or just another way to fix what she had broken without fully facing the consequences. "Why now?" I asked again, my voice quieter this time. "What changed? You've been with him, you've been happy." "Not really," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I thought I was, but I was. I didn't realize it until after everything ended with him. I didn't know what to do with myself after he left." My mind was racing, each word she said making my heart ache in ways I couldn't explain. "You broke my heart," I said, the truth spilling out before I could stop it. "And now, after everything, you think you can just call me and expect things to be the same." "I don't want things to be the same," she said quickly. "I want to make it right. Please, can we just talk? I need you to know how sorry I am for everything." There was a moment of silence, the kind of silence that spoke louder than any words could. I could hear the soft hum of traffic outside my apartment, the faint ticking of the clock on the wall, but all I could feel was this heaviness in my chest, this weight of years of emotions and pain that I had buried deep inside. I had spent months trying to convince myself that I was fine, that I was better off without her. But now, after hearing her voice, I wasn't so sure. I wasn't so sure about anything. "Where are you?" I asked, almost without thinking. "I can't promise anything, but I'll meet you. We can talk, that's it." "I'm at home, please, I really need to see you." I closed my eyes again. I could feel my pulse quickening, the memories of all those years we had spent together rushing back. The late-night talks, the inside jokes, the way her eyes would light up when she saw me after a long day. She had always been there for me, and I had always been there for her. But now, things were different. Everything had changed. "Okay," I finally said, my voice tight. "I'll be there in an hour." I hung up, staring at the phone in my hand for a moment. The weight of what I was about to do, what we were about to face, settled over me like a thick fog. I had no idea where this conversation would lead. I didn't know if we could go back to what we once had, or if the damage was too great. I stood up from the couch, my legs feeling unsteady beneath me. I didn't even know if I was ready for this, but part of me knew that, somehow, I had to be. I grabbed my jacket, slipped my keys into my pocket, and made my way toward the door. The future, the past, and the tangled mess in between all seemed to collide as I stepped out into the cold night air. I pulled into the parking lot of this apartment complex, my hands tight on the steering wheel, my stomach a twisted mess. The familiar sight of her place should felt comforting, but tonight it was just a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. I hadn't been here in months, not since I'd driven away with flowers on her porch, heart broken into 1,000 pieces. I sat in the car for a few moments, my mind racing. I could already hear her voice in my head, begging for forgiveness, apologizing, telling me that it wasn't supposed to be like this, but part of me knew that words couldn't fix the wreckage between us. I couldn't just pretend that everything had been okay, not after everything I'd been through. But what was I supposed to do? She was my best friend, she had been for years. She was the girl I'd laughed with, cried with, and shared so many of my firsts with. And now, here we were, two people who used to be inseparable, now caught in a mess of love, betrayal, and second chances. I finally got out of the car and made my way up to her door. Each step felt like it took me farther from who I used to be, farther from the who could laugh at stupid jokes and talk about anything and everything without fear of getting hurt. The old me had vanished the moment I saw her in Eli's hoodie. The old me had vanished the moment I realized that my best friend, the girl I had been in love with since we were 13, had chosen my brother over me. I knocked on her door, the sound echoing in the quiet hallway. It was like everything around me had become muffled, like the world was holding its breath for what would come next. Opened the door slowly, her eyes immediately locking with mine. She looked different, tired, her face pale, hair slightly messy but still so much like the girl I'd known for years. I could smell the faint scent of lavender from her room, the one she used to always wear, a comforting, familiar scent that made my heart ache. "Hey," she said quietly, stepping aside to let me in. "Thanks for coming." I nodded, unsure what to say. The weight of everything was pressing down on me, suffocating me with memories. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat felt tight. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. The apartment was just as I remembered, cluttered, cozy, with old movie posters on the walls and a stack of DVDs in the corner. The soft hum of a fan in the corner added to the heavy silence that filled the room. She gestured to the couch where she was already sitting, arms wrapped around herself, her expression nervous. I stood there for a moment, trying to decide where to sit. The distance between us felt like a chasm that no amount of words could ever bridge. I finally sat down, but not too close, not close enough for her to reach out and grab my hand like she used to when we were younger. This wasn't the same, not anymore. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice tentative, almost like she wasn't sure if I was even still the person she had once known. I shook my head, the bitterness I had been holding and finally slipping out. "Am I okay? You're asking me if I'm okay after everything that's happened, after you and Eli." She winced, her eyes welling up with tears. "Please, I know I messed up. You think," I cut her off, the anger in my voice sharper than I intended. "You don't even get it, do you? You chose my brother, after everything we had, everything I thought we had, you just went and picked him." She flinched at the words as if they were a slap to the face. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't know what to do, I was so scared. I thought if I picked Eli, if I stayed with him, I wouldn't lose you. I thought I could have both of you." "That's the thing," I said, my voice softening slightly. "You couldn't have both of us. You can't just have everything and not deal with the consequences." She bit her lip, clearly struggling to keep her emotions in check. "I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what to say to you. I didn't want to lose you as a friend, and I didn't want to lose Eli either. I thought if I stayed with him, we'd still be okay." "That's not how it works," I said, shaking my head. "I'm not a backup plan. I'm not some guy you keep around just in case your relationship with Eli doesn't work out." She looked down at her hands, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant for it to be like this. I never meant to hurt you. You've been my best friend for so long, and I don't want to lose you. I just didn't know what to do." I stood up abruptly, walking over to the window, trying to calm myself. I could hear the soft sobs behind me, and it took everything in me not to turn around. I couldn't, not yet. I wasn't ready to forgive her. I wasn't ready to let her back in. But as I looked out the window, I realized something. I wasn't the only one who had been hurt. She had been hurt too. She had made a mistake, a huge mistake, but didn't I deserve an apology? Didn't I deserve to know why she had done it? "Why Eli?" I asked, my voice quieter now, more tired. "Why did you pick him? You knew how I felt. You knew I loved you." Her voice cracked as she answered, "I know, I was scared. I was scared of losing you. I thought if I kept you as my best friend, it would be enough. But when Eli kissed me, when he told me that I'd never have to choose, I just didn't know what to do." I turned around to face her then. You didn't have to choose, you could had both of us, but you didn't, you chose him, you chose the safety of what you knew over us. Her eyes widened as if she hadn't expected that. I never meant for it to be that way, I was just trying to keep everything intact, but I see now that I lost everything anyway. I felt a pang in my chest. She was right, she had lost everything, and so had I. The silence in the room hung heavy between us, and I could feel the weight of all the unspoken words pressing down. How could we move past this, could we? Her hand reached out toward me, and for the first time in months I didn't pull away. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I wish I could take it all back. I wish I hadn't let him into our lives like that. I wish I had told you how I felt before it all went to hell." I didn't know what to say to that. How could I just forgive her after everything? How could I forget the years of friendship, the way she had looked at me like I was just a placeholder until she could figure out what she wanted? "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, my voice low. "Not yet." She nodded as if she had expected that answer. "I understand, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, and I'll be here when you're ready." The next few days were a blur. I kept replaying everything had said over and over in my head, the apology, the explanation, the raw pain in her voice. Part of me wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to take her hand and let everything go like it never happened. But I knew that wasn't possible. The truth was, it wasn't just her I had to forgive. It was Eli too, my brother, my own flesh and blood. The thought of him always made my blood boil. He knew how I felt about, he knew I was in love with her, had been since we were kids. So why did he do it? Why did he betray me like that? It had been weeks since I last saw Eli, since I last spoke to him. I'd done everything I could to avoid him. The last time we crossed paths, I was in no mood to hear his excuses, and I wasn't sure I ever would be. I couldn't just act like nothing had happened, like it was all fine. He stole from me not just my chance at love, but my trust, my respect. He didn't just take her, he took my peace. But there was something about, she made me want to believe in second chances. She made me want to believe that things could be fixed. Even though everything inside me told me to run, to stay far away from her and from everything that had been broken, part of me wanted to try. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I couldn't shake the pull to see where it could go. I hadn't responded to her since that night. I hadn't really known how to, so when I saw a text from her the next morning, I couldn't ignore it, not this time. The message was simple: "Can we talk? I think we need to." I stared at my phone for a long time. It wasn't the words that stopped me, it was the memories, the thought of everything that came before, the years of friendship, of shared everything, of feeling like we could never be apart, only to have it ripped away so suddenly. My trust in her, in Eli, had shattered. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure if I'd ever be. But the text stayed with me, gnawing at me. Could I really move forward without at least hearing her out? Could I find a way to forgive her, and maybe, just maybe, forgive him too? The following week, I finally decided to take the plunge. I called her. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I was tired of sitting in this strange limbo of not knowing what was left for us. When she answered, there was no hesitation in her voice, no waiting for me to say something first. She said, "I'm so glad you called." "Yeah, well, I don't know what I'm doing," I replied, the frustration clear in my voice. "I don't know if I should even be talking to you, let alone giving you a chance to explain yourself." She was quiet for a moment. "I understand, and I'm not asking you to just forgive me, I just need you to know that I've thought about nothing else since we last talked." I leaned back against the wall of my apartment, my arms crossed. I wasn't sure what to say next. What changed? Why now? Why after everything are you suddenly ready to talk? "I never stopped thinking about you," she said softly. "I was a fool. I thought I could have everything. I thought I could keep you both. But in the end, I lost you both, and I'm sorry for that. I was scared, but I shouldn't have been." It stung hearing her say it so plainly. "You think you lost me, huh? That's cute. It's not that simple. You can't just throw away something like that. You can't take it back. You don't get to just decide, 'Oh, I made a mistake,' and expect everything to be okay." I heard her take a deep breath. "I know it doesn't work like that, and I'm not trying to make it seem like it's all okay now. I know I messed up, but I'm asking for a chance to prove that I can make it right, to prove that you matter. You've always mattered to me." Her words were like a punch to my chest. I could feel my heart soften just a little, but my mind was still screaming at me to stop. "Don't do this. Don't let her back in." "I don't know what to do with that, I really don't," I said, my voice hoarse. "You hurt me, you hurt us both, and I don't know how to get past that." She paused before responding, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't expect you to just forgive me, I don't, but can we try? Can we at least try to rebuild what we had, even if we start slow?" I was silent for a long time. Her words were like a rope thrown to me, and part of me wanted to take it, wanted to trust that we could find our way back. But another part of me wanted to just walk away and never look back. But we were friends for so long, my best friend. I couldn't deny that there was still something in me that wasn't ready to say goodbye for good. I sighed, fine, but I need to know why him. Why did you choose Eli over me? She seemed to hesitate, but I could feel the honesty in her voice when she answered. It wasn't about choosing him over you, it was about fear. I was scared of losing you if we tried to be something more. And then when Eli came to me and said things I wanted to hear, I listened to him. I thought I could make it work, but I was wrong, and I can't take it back. I could feel my pulse quicken at the thought of Eli, my brother. The thought of him always twisted something inside me. How could he have done that to me? How could he have betrayed me like that? I had always tried to protect him, always put him first, but this was different. This was the line he crossed that I couldn't forgive, not yet, not in the way he wanted me to. What happens now? I asked, though I was afraid of the answer. Part of me wanted to let it all go, to let her back in and forget all the anger, all the hurt, but I couldn't, not yet, not after everything. I don't know, she admitted. I don't know where this goes, but I want to find out, and I'm willing to take it one step at a time. No pressure, no expectations, just us, if you can stand to be around me after everything. I stayed silent for a moment. I wasn't sure what the future held for us, but for the first time in months I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt since that night: hope. I'll think about it, I said finally, but I'm not making any promises. Later that night, after I hung up, I sat in the quiet of my apartment, staring out the window at the city below. I could hear the faint hum of traffic, the soft murmur of life continuing around me, while I sat, caught in a storm of memories and emotions. I wasn't sure if I was making the right choice, but one thing was clear: I had a decision to make, a decision that would shape everything that came next. The days that followed felt like I was walking through a fog. I couldn't think clearly. My mind was pulled in two directions. One side wanted to forgive, to let the past go, and find a way to rebuild what we had, and the other side wanted to shut the door on it all and never look back. I kept replaying the conversation we'd had, the raw honesty in her voice, the way she admitted her fear, her regret, but I couldn't ignore the fact that Eli was still in the picture. He was the one who broke the trust between us. He was the one who took what was mine, what I had longed for, and I had no idea what to do with that. It wasn't just the betrayal of him dadding that hurt, it was the fact that he did it so easily, like it didn't even matter to him. I remember when I confronted him about it, how casually he shrugged it off like it was just another game. He never took me seriously, he never took us seriously. But she wasn't like that. She had always been the one to listen, to care. I could never figure out why she couldn't see it, why she never realized that I had been in love with her all along. That maybe all the things she felt for me weren't just the feelings of a friend, but something more. When I walked into work the next morning, I was still a mess. I could barely focus on the project in front of me. Every time I picked up my pencil or stared at the screen, my thoughts would drift to her, to the way she looked at me when she said, "I miss you, I think about you every day." It made my chest tight, even now. What did that even mean? Was she really sorry? Or was this some selfish attempt to fix what she had broken because Eli was out of the picture now? I didn't know if I was ready to find out. I had to meet her. That was the decision I finally made. I couldn't live in limbo any longer. I was driving myself crazy by doing nothing, by avoiding it. I had to face this head-on, whatever the consequences. I texted her, "Let's meet, tonight, same place, 8 p.m. There was a long pause before she replied. I almost thought she wouldn't respond. Maybe she had already moved on, or maybe she was too scared to face me again after everything we'd been through. But then her text came through: "I'll be there." The old diner we used to go to, the one where we spent hours talking about everything, about life, about the future, about the kind of people we wanted to become, it felt like the right place to finally meet again. But as I drove there that evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that the past was about to collide with the present in a way I wasn't ready for. When I walked into the diner, the familiar smell of fried food and coffee hit me immediately. The neon lights buzzed above, casting a soft glow across the worn red booths and cracked vinyl seats. Everything about this place was nostalgic. I had spent so many nights here with, just talking, laughing, dreaming. And now it felt like everything had changed. I sat at the same booth we always sat at, the one by the window where we could look out at the city lights as we shared our lives with each other. My fingers drummed nervously on the table, the tick-tick-tick echoing in my mind. I had no idea what I was walking into. What was I supposed to say to her after everything? I glanced at my phone, checking the time. It was 8:05 p.m. Where was she? Just as I thought about texting her, I saw her walk through the door. Her eyes met mine instantly, and I could see the hesitation in them. She looked different tonight, not physically but emotionally. She was no longer the confident, carefree I had known. The girl who always knew what to say, who always made me laugh, now looked like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her eyes were red and I could tell she'd been crying. She walked over, slower than usual, as if every step was a reminder of how much had changed. When she reached the booth, she stopped for a second, almost as if she was unsure if she should sit down. I looked up at her. She nodded, her voice almost cracking as she said, "Hi." For a few moments, neither of us spoke. The waitress came by and handed us both menus, but neither of us touched them. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't sure why I was even here, to see if I could forgive her, to find closure, or was I just hoping that there was a way back to the friendship we once had? I broke the silence first. "So this is it, huh? You and me trying to figure out what's left of this." She shook her head quickly, her fingers trembling as she placed them on the table. "I don't want to make it sound like that, but I need you to understand something. What happened with Eli, it wasn't a decision I made lightly. I've been lost ever since it all fell apart, and I couldn't see the damage I did until it was too late." I leaned back in my seat, trying to control the sudden rush of emotions. It felt like and I wasn't sure if I was going to ride it out or jump off. "But why him? Why didn't you tell me how you felt? You think I wouldn't have wanted you?" Her eyes searched mine, and for a second I saw something there, something raw, something vulnerable. I was afraid, I was so afraid. I thought if we tried and it didn't work out, I would lose everything. You, me, us. I thought I could have him and keep you and not lose either of you. I let out a bitter laugh. "But that's not how it works. You can't keep everyone happy. You can't have your cake and eat it too." She nodded, her eyes filled with remorse. I know that now, but back then I was scared. I was scared of losing you as my best friend. I was scared of changing everything, and I was scared of feeling something I didn't know how to handle. I thought I could fix it later, but I was wrong, and now I see that I messed everything up." Her words hit me hard. I wanted to scream, to say everything I had been holding in, but the truth was, I wasn't ready to do that. I didn't know how to let her back in, but I wasn't ready to shut her out either. For the first time, I realized how much she was hurting too. It wasn't just about me and my anger. She had lost something too, something she couldn't get back. I sighed deeply, running a hand through my hair. "So, what happens now? What are we supposed to do with all of this, with all this mess we've created?" She took a deep breath and finally met my eyes. "I don't know, but I'm willing to try. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." I stared at her, at the girl who had been my best friend, the girl who had broken my heart, and the girl who now seemed so lost. I wasn't sure what to do next. I wasn't sure if I was ready to forgive her, to open up again. But there was a part of me that knew deep down that I still cared, that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for us. But then, just as the thought crossed my mind, the door to the diner opened, and I saw Eli walk in. The moment Eli stepped through the door, my stomach twisted in knots. It felt like the air around me thickened and time itself slowed down. There was no mistaking him. I would recognize that cocky, too cool for school walk anywhere. His eyes scanned the room, and the instant they landed on me, I felt a rush of anger flood my chest. It was like everything I had tried to bury, everything I had worked so hard to push down, came surging back to the surface. But it wasn't just the anger, it was the confusion, the pain, the betrayal. What the hell was he doing here? Seemed to notice my reaction immediately, and I could see the anxiety flash across her face. Her hands tightened around her coffee cup, and her body stiffened as if she was waiting for something bad to happen. She knew it, just as well as I did, that this was a powder keg waiting to explode. Eli stood at the entrance for a moment, his eyes flicking between me and a half-smile curling on his lips, the kind of smile that always made me feel like he thought he had everything under control. But tonight, it wasn't so charming. His voice cut through the silence. "I didn't think I'd find you two here." I didn't know how to respond. My first instinct was to get up, to leave, to tell him to get out of here, but spoke first, her voice shaky as she turned to look at him. "Eli, what are you doing here?" He took a few casual steps toward the booth, his gaze never leaving me. "I came to talk to. I figured we should clear the air. It's been a long time, hasn't it?" His words hit me like a punch. A part of me knew this moment was coming. I had been avoiding him for months, hoping that somehow the situation would resolve itself without me having to face him. But it was never going to happen like that, was it? He was my brother, and despite everything, I still cared about him, even if I didn't know how to forgive him. I could feel the heat in my cheeks, my fists clenched against the table, but I kept my voice steady. "You've got a hell of a lot of nerve showing up here like everything's fine." Eli didn't flinch, he just looked at me, his eyes colder than I had ever seen them. "I know I messed up, but you think I haven't been paying for that? Do you think this is easy for me? It's not. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want any of this to happen." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him how much he had hurt me, how much I hated him for what he did to me, what he did to us. But instead, I stayed silent, my heart pounding in my chest. Broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. Eli, we don't need this right now. We're trying to figure things out, okay? Please. Eli ignored her, his focus still on me. Look, I know you're pissed and you have every right to be, but you need to understand something. This wasn't just me being selfish. I was trying to protect you too. I thought if I could just get her, if I could just make things work, it would somehow save everything. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose my brother, but I was wrong. I know that now. I felt my stomach churn. Protect me? How could he even say that with a straight face? You think you were protecting me, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You think you were protecting me by betraying me, by taking the one thing I wanted more than anything. Shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes darting between Eli and me, the tension thick in the air. She hadn't said a word since Eli sat down, but I could see how much this was affecting her. I could see how torn she was. But right then I didn't care about her. I didn't care about any of the hurt I had seen in her eyes earlier. I was angry. Angry at Eli for taking her from me, angry at myself for being too afraid to speak up when I had the chance. I had lost so much and I needed to make him understand that. You took everything, Eli, I said, my voice sharp. You took my friendship. You took my love for her and turned it into some twisted version of a game, and now you think you can just show up and make it all go away. Eli's jaw tightened, but he didn't back down. I wasn't trying to make it a game, but I know I messed up. I can't undo what happened. I can't make you forget, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I need you to know I'm not proud of what I did. I wasn't thinking clearly. I didn't realize the damage I was causing until it was too late. I wanted to believe him. Part of me wanted to believe that this was just a mistake, that my brother wasn't some cold, calculating person who had just used me as a pawn in his life. But deep down, I knew the truth. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew how much I loved, and still he went for it. I felt a sickening mix of emotions swirling inside me, anger, betrayal, confusion. I looked at her, eyes wide, her hand clenched tightly around her coffee cup. She hadn't said a word, but I knew she was as hurt as I was, maybe even more. She had been caught in the middle of this, torn between the two people she loved the most. But it didn't make what Eli did any easier to swallow. I turned my attention back to him. You don't get it, Eli. You don't get how much you've hurt me, how much I've lost. You took my chance at happiness and you think you can just fix it by showing up and saying you're sorry. Eli didn't respond right away. He just looked at me, his expression hard to read. For a moment we were both silent, the weight of everything hanging between us. And then he spoke softly. I know I can't fix it, but I can try to make it right, and if you ever decide you want to talk about it, I'm here, but I understand if you don't. The words hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready to hear him say that he was done trying to fix things. I thought he would keep pushing, keep justifying his actions, but instead he seemed resigned. I glanced at who was sitting frozen, watching us both. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she didn't say a word. I wasn't sure if she was waiting for me to speak, for me to forgive him, or if she was just caught in this mess, unable to break free. I turned back to Eli, the anger still simmering inside me, but something else was beginning to surface, a sense of acceptance. Maybe this was the closest thing to closure I was going to get. Fine, I said, the word coming out more forcefully than I intended. I'm not ready to forgive you, Eli. I'm not even sure I ever will be, but I'm done being angry. I'm done holding this inside. Eli nodded slowly as if he expected that answer. I get it, and I'm not going to push you. He stood up then, ready to leave, but he paused for a moment. I'm sorry, he said, his voice low. I really am. And just like that, he turned and walked out of the diner, leaving and me sitting there, facing the weight of everything we had lost. I sat back in the booth, my chest heavy. I didn't know how to feel. Eli was gone, but the storm inside me was far from over. Finally spoke, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry, I never wanted any of this to happen. I didn't know what to say. How could I? The truth was, I wasn't sure what came next for us. I wasn't sure what any of this meant anymore. But maybe we had a chance. The silence after Eli left was unbearable. And I sat in the diner, the neon lights above us flickering softly, casting shadows across our faces. The once comforting hum of background noise, the clink of cutlery, the low murmur of the other patrons had all but vanished. It felt like the world had paused for just a moment, holding its breath, waiting for something to happen, or maybe, just maybe, waiting for me to make a decision. I kept replaying the confrontation in my head, Eli's words, his empty apology, and the calm, collected way he had walked out. He was sorry, but his apology felt like a stone thrown into a still pond. It didn't stop the ripples from spreading, but it didn't make the water any clearer either. Was staring at her coffee, her fingers trembling slightly as she clutched the mug in her hands. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from the tears she had obviously been holding in since I walked in. She hadn't said anything after Eli left. She hadn't looked at me either. I didn't know what to do with myself. I wasn't angry anymore, at least not in the same way I had been when Eli first walked in. But the hurt was still there, lurking beneath the surface, just waiting to make itself known again. I leaned forward, my elbows resting on the table, my fingers tapping anxiously against the edge. We need to talk about this. Her eyes met mine for the first time since Eli had left. She looked so vulnerable, like she was hanging on to some thread of hope that I would somehow understand, somehow find it in myself to forgive her and him. I know, she said softly, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know where to start, but I know we need to talk too. The words hung in the air between us, thick and heavy. I wanted to scream at her, ask her why she had never told me how she felt, why she had let everything fall apart. I wanted to tell her how much it had hurt, how much I had struggled with losing her, not just as my best friend, but as the one person who had always made sense of the chaos in my life. But at the same time, I didn't want to lose her again. I didn't know if I could bear it. You know what he said to me? I asked, my voice low. That he was trying to protect me, that he thought by being with you, everything would be okay, that he was keeping us both safe. Shook her head, tears threatening to spill over. I know, I heard it, and I hate that he said that. I hate that he thought he was protecting you by doing that to you. But you need to understand something. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just so scared. I didn't know how to tell you how I felt, and I didn't want to risk losing you the way I lost everything else. My heart clenched at her words. She was right. I had been in love with her for years, but I had never told her. And now here she was, admitting that she had felt the same way all along, but neither of us had acted on it. We had spent so much time dancing around the truth, too scared to face it, that we had both lost our chance. I looked at her, the pain in my chest almost unbearable now. So, what now? What happens to us? What happens to everything? She wiped her eyes, taking a shaky breath. I don't know, I really don't, but I do know this, I love you, I have for years, and I didn't realize just how much I needed you in my life until I almost lost you. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away, I'm not asking you to forget anything, but I want to try. I want to try and fix this, even if it means starting over from scratch. My mind was spinning. I had spent so long trying to bury my feelings for her, trying to convince myself that it was better this way. But hearing her say that, hearing her finally admit what I had always known in my heart, shifted something inside me. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't pretend that I didn't still love her, that I didn't still want a chance at something more. But there was the other part of me, the part that still wasn't sure I could trust her again, or Eli. The hurt, the betrayal, it ran deep. And no matter how much I wanted to move past it, there was a part of me that didn't know if I could ever get over what had happened. I don't know if I can just forget, I said, my voice rough. I don't know if I can forget the way you hurt me, the way you and Eli both betrayed me. She nodded, her eyes full of understanding. I know, I don't expect you to forget, I wouldn't ask you to, but I need you to know that I am sorry, that I never meant for this to happen. And if there's any way for us to find our way back to each other, I want to try. I'll be here, I'll wait, I don't care how long it takes. The words hit me like a wave, washing over me, leaving me breathless. Part of me wanted to take her hand, to say that everything was going to be okay, but the other part of me, the part that was still wounded, still angry, still unsure, was terrified. I don't know if I can give you what you want, I whispered, looking down at my hands. I don't know if I can just pick up where we left off. She leaned forward, her voice full of vulnerability. I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking you to just pretend like everything's fine. I'm asking for a chance, a real chance for us to figure this out together. I don't know what the future holds, but I can't do this without you. And if that means taking things slow, then I'll wait. I just want a chance to make it right. The sincerity in her voice almost broke me, but I didn't know how to move forward. I didn't know if I could risk my heart again, if I could trust her or anyone enough to take that step. We sat there in silence for a long time, the weight of the past hanging between us like a thick fog. I wanted to say something, anything, to make it all feel right again. But the truth was, I wasn't sure how to fix something so broken. I wasn't sure if it was even possible. I finally looked up, meeting her eyes. I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were, but maybe we can figure out something new, a new beginning, I just don't know how. Smiled through her tears, a tentative, hopeful smile. Maybe that's all we need, a new beginning. As we left the diner that night, I didn't feel the resolution I had hoped for. There was no grand moment of clarity, no easy answers, but there was something else, something that hadn't been there before, a glimmer of hope, of possibility, and maybe, for the first time in months, that was enough. The next few weeks were a blur, but they were a blur in the way that time passes when you're holding your breath, waiting for something to happen, but you're not sure what that something is. And I kept in touch, slowly, carefully. We started to rebuild, but we weren't rushing. I think deep down we both knew that nothing could go back to what it once was, but maybe, just maybe, that wasn't a bad thing. We spent time together, quiet dinners, walks through the park, long conversations that were both awkward and comforting at the same time. The more we talked, the more I realized how much I had missed her, not just as the girl I loved, but as the best friend I had known for years. But there was still the question that lingered, hanging over us like a cloud. Could we ever go back to how we used to be? Could we ever make it past the betrayal? Could I forgive her? Could she forgive herself? Could we really build something new, even after all that had happened? One evening, a few weeks after our dinner at the diner, invited me over to her apartment. I had been spending a lot of time at my own place, still processing everything, still unsure of how much further I could let myself fall into this fragile new version of us. But tonight felt different. Had sent a text earlier that day saying she had something she needed to say. My heart skipped a beat at the thought, but I didn't want to read too much into it. She had been honest with me before, but there was always the fear, deep down, that she wasn't being fully honest, not with herself and not with me. When I arrived, the apartment was quiet, peaceful, was sitting on the couch, her legs tucked under her, a cup of tea in her hands. The familiar warmth of the space, the soft lavender scent that I always associated with her, hit me immediately. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. She looked up when I walked in, a small, nervous smile on her lips. "Hey," she said, her voice a little shaky, "I'm glad you came." "Of course," I said, walking over and sitting next to her. I didn't know what to expect, but I felt an odd sense of calm settle over me. Maybe it was because this place, this room, had always felt like home. Maybe it was because I wanted to believe that we could still make something out of what we had, even if it wasn't the same. "I've been thinking a lot," said, her voice barely above a whisper. "About everything, about you, about Eli, about us. I know I can't change what happened, and I know I can't make up for the pain I caused, but I need you to know that I've been carrying this guilt for so long. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was just scared. And now I see that the only thing I was really doing was running away from what we could had." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in a long time I could see the depth of her regret, the weight of the mistake she had made. "You were scared," I said, the words tasting strange on my tongue. "We both were." She nodded, biting her lip, eyes welling up with tears. "I didn't know how to tell you the truth. I didn't know how to tell you how I really felt, and I thought if I could just keep things normal, just keep you in my life as my best friend, that it would all be okay. But then I lost you, and I realized I had nothing, and I didn't know how to fix it." I reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. I wasn't sure what this meant, this moment between us, but I knew it meant something. We were no longer hiding behind the walls we had built around ourselves. We were no longer pretending that everything was fine when it was. We were finally being honest. "You didn't just lose me," I said quietly. "You lost yourself too, didn't you? We both did. We both let fear get in the way of what we could have been." She looked at me then, her eyes searching mine, as if looking for some kind of reassurance, some kind of answer. "What happens now? What happens now that we've both admitted what we've done and what we've lost?" The question hung in the air, more fragile than anything else we'd said. The truth was, I didn't know. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know if I could forgive her fully or if we could ever go back to what we once had. I didn't know what our future looked like. But in that moment, as I looked into her eyes, I realized something. We couldn't change the past and we couldn't force the future, but we had this moment, and maybe that was enough to start again. "I don't know what comes next," I said, my voice steady now, filled with a strange sense of peace. "But I'm willing to try for us, for what we still have." She smiled through her tears, and for the first time it felt like we were both on the same page, like we were finally heading in the same direction. It wasn't a perfect solution. There was no magic fix for everything we had been through, but there was hope, hope that maybe we could rebuild something from the wreckage. "You're willing to try," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "Yeah," I said, my voice soft but firm. "I think I am." We sat there for a long time, neither of us speaking, just holding each other's hands, letting the silence between us speak volumes. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real, and maybe, for the first time, we were both ready to face the future together. A few weeks later, things started to fall into place. Slowly, cautiously, and I began to rebuild what had been broken. We didn't rush it, we didn't force anything. But every moment we shared, every conversation, every laugh, every quiet evening together felt like a small step forward. And then one night she took a deep breath and handed me something, a small, wrapped package. "Open it," she said, her voice shaking slightly. I carefully untied the ribbon and opened the small box. Inside was a key. It was simple, a brass key with a small sunflower charm attached to it. "Move in with me," said quietly, her voice full of vulnerability. "I'm tired of going back and forth. I want to wake up with you every day. Let's make this work." I felt my heart swell as I looked at her, the key in my hand. I had been waiting for a moment like this, a moment where everything felt right again. Yes, I said, the word coming out more easily than I had expected. Yes, I'll move in with you. And as I looked at her, the woman who had once broken my heart but was now standing beside me, ready to face the future with me, I realized that sometimes the longest roads lead exactly where you need to be. A year later, and I sat on the balcony of our apartment, watching the sun set over the city. The air was warm, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange. I had sunflowers in a vase on the table beside us, the same kind I had brought to her all those months ago. We didn't have all the answers, we didn't know what the future held, but we had each other, and sometimes that was enough. "How are we doing?" she asked, her head resting on my shoulder. "Better than I ever imagined," I said, smiling as I looked out at the horizon. "We've still got a lot of work to do, but we're getting there." And for the first time in a long time, I truly believed it.